Hi, it is Miss Smith. Today what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be reading about the life cycle of a plant. So let's get started. So I have a picture for you guys, and it is going to show you guys all of the different stages a plant goes through in order to become a big plant. Oh no, it took me away. Okay, here we go. So it starts off like this. So first it gets planted in the ground and it's super teeny. And then it starts growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And then eventually it turns into what we see that are super tall and big. So let's learn about the life cycle of it all. Sorry, I lost my page. Okay, here we go. All living things pass through the stages from birth to adult called a life cycle. For many living things, the cycle of life follows the 4 seasons of the year. For some living things, the cycle is short and is completed in just days, months, or a single year. For other living things, the cycle of life continues for many, many years. Today, you will learn about the life cycle of a flowering plant. Just think about flowering plants that you see in parks, yards, gardens, meadows. Our world is awash of colorful, vibrant plants. How do these plants grow and reproduce and make seeds for new plants? Let's find out. So the first stage is called germination. A flowering plant begins the life cycle as a seed. Seeds need special conditions to germinate or begin to grow. Spring provides the seeds in the right conditions to grow. Therefore, the life cycle of a flowering plant begins in the spring. In spring, there is more sunlight and temperatures, and it's warm. Seeds need just the right amount of light from the sun, nutrients in the soil, and water in order to grow. Once it germinates or sprouts, it grows and develops into a young plant with roots, a stem, and leaves. The first leaves unfold to allow photosynthesis to begin. Photosynthesis is the process that plants make their own food, as well as oxygen. Plants use sunlight and water to make food in the form of glucose, a type of sugar. So, this is our first stage, the germination stage. So it's starting off as a little teeny tiny seed. In the warmth of the spring and the summer, plants continue to grow. The young plant is called a seedling. Gradually, a plant's stem will grow taller and true leaves will emerge. So they show up. Once the plant matures and becomes an adult plant, flowers appear. In order for a flowering plant to reproduce or produce seeds that will make new flowering plants, it will be pollinated. Pollination is when pollen from one flower mixes the pollen with another flower, so the plant can make seeds. How is pollen transferred from one plant to another? In other words, how does pollination occur? Flowering plants need pollinators to help them with pollination. Pollinators are insects, birds, and other animals that are attracted to the shape, fragrance, color of a flower. Without pollinators, most flowering plants would not produce fruits and seeds. So these are the flowers. So that is our next step. Birds are pollinators too, especially of wildflowers. For example, hummingbirds have perfectly designed beaks that can reach the nectar inside a long tube or tubular-shaped flower. There are more than 2,000 kinds of birds in the world that feed on nectar. Birds have a poor sense of smell and help pollinate unscented flowering plants because they are attracted to the color and the shape. A variety of small animals pollinate flowering plants: mice, shrews, and rats. Even tree-dwelling animals such as lemurs and monkeys can help transfer pollen. People also help pollination process. Often when we are working in flower gardens and sticky pollen is accidentally carried from flower to flower. For some plants, pollination does not occur in the daytime. Some scented flowers attract nighttime pollinators like bats and moths. Although 90% of flowering plants are pollinated by animals, especially insects, the wind and even water can play a part too. Pollen is carried by the wind. Flowering plants that live in water, such as lilies, can be pollinated as the water carries pollen from plant to another. When pollen has been transferred and reaches a new flower, it reproduces seeds. The next part of the process is called the seed dispersal. This process is carrying seeds away from the parent plant and so that the flowering plant life cycle can begin over and over again. So these are some of the animals and insects, or I guess those are all insects, that carry it. And we know that bees, we always hear about bees being really popular pollinators. So basically, all these animals are putting the seeds and the pollen on their bodies, and then they travel, and then when they drop their seeds, it moves somewhere new, and then a new plant can go, or it pollinates a new plant. It's pretty cool. All of this is happening around us in spring, summer, and early autumn. The potential for new life is being created as flowering plants are pollinated and seeds are dispersed. Across the world, the life cycle of flowering plants is renewed and happens again each year.